everyone, welcome to Gig Harbor, Washington, where the anchor all began. We are standing here in front of a net shed, and for those of you who don't know what a net shed is, our town is an old fishing community, and back in the day, the fishermen would come off the water and bring their boats in and bring their nets into these net sheds to be repaired and get equipped and just get a little rest off the water. So we thought, what a great analogy for the anchor where it first began is this place where women of all ages can come to gather and be together and be restored and be encouraged. So we are excited right now to announce that this month we are going to begin to share an anchor moment with you. And an anchor moment is a time in your life when your faith has really been grounded and you've seen God at work for real. And we are thrilled that we are going to be able to share with you stories from women of all kinds of backgrounds and all ages, and our hope and prayer is that you would be encouraged.
Hey there, my name is Becca Rennaker and I live in South Seattle, Washington. I'm married to an amazing man named Michael Rennaker, and we've been together for a little over 10 years at this point, which is amazing. And I'm here today to just share a little bit about my faith journey and an anchor moment where the Lord's really grounded me. And I just would start by saying, my goodness, we've all been in the middle of a crazy, wild, turbulent last couple years. And as much as the Lord's been so faithful, it's also been a time where there's been much weariness and disappointment and hope deferred in so many of our lives. And this is just an opportunity to testify of who Jesus has been to me in this season of life. And I wanted to start by just sharing a little bit of scripture that really spoke to me in the beginning of a season, and to just give evidence to where I've seen him at work as a result. And so one day I was reading in Matthew, and there's a story of where we find Jesus being led into the wilderness by God. And while he's there, he experiences what all of us come to experience many times, where we hear this voice of the accuser, these lies that want to come in, or thoughts and questions that want to come and really spark something else. But Jesus meets the enemy in the wilderness. And as he's there, there continues to be these questions around his identity that would come at him, like, if you are the Son of God, if you are, then do this. And what was really struck me as I was reading the story this time was his response. And it was the same every time. His response was, it is written. It is written. It is written. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word from the voice of God. And I was reading this, I just felt like this preparation coming of, I have to know what it looks like to say, it is written, in response to these voices and these lies and accusations that would come to the mind. And I really found myself thinking to myself, like, what voice am I allowing to father me, if that makes sense? What voice am I allowing to really meditate on and chew on? And as I saw that picture of who he was in the middle of the wilderness, and there was another story of him with the disciples, the book of John, in chapter 9, where you see Jesus kind of tucks himself away after another experience where this time not by an enemy, but by these other men and women around him that are asking him, like, are you really who you say you are? And Jesus walks himself down to the river. And as I was reading the story, he goes back to the place where it says that where John the Baptist was baptizing, and this little whisper came in my ear that said, why do you think he went down to the river? And I had this moment of realizing, like, Jesus is just as human as me, and that he has to return back to the place where he heard his identity spoken over him. In the moment of questions coming his way, he returned back to the place where he heard for the first time, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. And so as I'm seeing these pictures of who he is and meditating on these things, I've been in my own personal journey of waiting on God over an identity of becoming a natural mom. And it's been a long journey of praying and asking and different thoughts that love to come in and remind me what won't be in my future. But after the last 4 years, we've been in a place where my husband and I have been praying for a family. We've been praying to get pregnant, and through this season, I remember getting alone with the Lord, and He was said to me, like, you have to write it on your heart, like, it is written. What is your response? What is the invitation in those moments of being tempted to believe otherwise, to continue to wrestle through the disappointment? And I got away with Him, and I found myself sitting out on there's this rooftop area, and I just, in lots of tears, very ugly. It's just like, I'm at my wit's end. Like, what? Like, every other person in front of me, we're the only friend group left that doesn't have babies yet, you know? And so as you go through different seasons, and there's just this natural sense of disconnection, not only a pandemic to add to it, but it's just so much loneliness on the horizon. And so I'm crying out to the Lord, like, this is like the deepest longing of my heart is to have a family. And I found myself saying, like, what do you say about it? Lead me through your word. Tell me what you want me to know. And have found this fun way. Like, He loves to speak. He's a God who speaks, and He loves to speak to His kids. And I just got really quiet, and I just let my mind just go, okay, I'm gonna imagine if I hear a book of the Bible pop in my head and a number reference, I'm just gonna look it up in faith, and maybe it's really you wanting to speak to me. And so I hear the first scripture. And the first one, I hear Romans 4:18. So I'm like, all right, go open up Romans 4:18, and it says, and it reads, against all odds, when it looked hopeless, Abraham believed the promise and expected God to fulfill it. He took God at His word, and as a result, he became the father of many nations. And it goes on to recount that despite the fact that Sarah was incapable of conceiving a child, they never stopped believing God's promise, and they became parents. And I'm reading that in response to this, inner dialogue that's going on in my head, and I'm like, you hear the first verse, and you're thinking, was that really you? So of course, we ask again, okay, if that was really you, would you give me another verse? Would you give me another scripture? And so I hear another scripture, and I open it up. I hear Genesis 25:21, yeah. And then how crazy is this? I said, my name is Becca, or short for Rebecca. And the scripture I read is, Isaac prayed to the Lord for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord granted his prayer, and Rebecca, his wife, conceived. What? So that's the tears start brimming. I'm hearing the voice of truth wanting to replace the things that I've been believing in my disappointment after several years of just not getting anywhere. And I heard one more verse, and it says Galatians 4:27, and I open it up, and it says, burst forth with gladness, O barren woman with no children. Break through with shouts of joy and jubilee, for you are about to give birth. The one who was once considered desolate and barren now has more children than the one who had a husband. And I sat there in this moment, these scriptures, one after the next, where I have opportunity, I had the invitation in that moment to say, am I gonna listen to look at my history to determine what's going on, or am I gonna behold His voice? Am I gonna listen to His voice and lean in? And so again, the heart that leans in, and so I felt the invitation to pursue fertility treatment. We're in the month leading up to doing it for our first try, transfer in IVF, and I am at a little boutique shop, and I'm in this little shop with a girlfriend, minding my own business, not thinking about a whole lot. It's just this last October, and as I'm there, I see this cute little throw blanket on this little table, and I pick it up thinking, it's for a living room, right? And then I pick it up, and it's pretty small, and I'm realizing I'm like looking at this really cute baby blanket, and I'm thinking, oh, that's just so cute. And I go to lay it down, and this whisper out of nowhere just says, would you buy this blanket in faith? And I'm like, tears just instantly start welling up in my eyes at this little store. Like, what? And then practical me is like, this is a $60 baby blanket. Like, I can't buy a $6 baby blanket? That's so much money for a baby blanket. And the next whisper was, I'd spend anything on my kids. And it was just this moment where I just felt this invitation, like, will you lean in again and choose faith? And so I bought the blanket in obedience. Checked out the register, didn't tell my husband because I think I was a little too nervous to just be hopeful. And on the other side of our journey, we got a phone call with great news, and I am talking to you before you, 6 months pregnant right now with a girl that's going to be born in August, and it has been a 4-year-long wait. But believing every word that is coming from his mouth, his voice, and that he is the one that we can put our trust in. I can put my trust in despite the years. And I'll close with this image of who Jesus I've discovered has really been to me in this season and throughout this last 4 years. But I was reminded in the end of Hebrews 4, there's this, I don't think I've really even noticed this until this last year about Jesus, but it talks about when he goes to heaven that he obtains a ministry. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about that very often, but when he and now is in heaven, he's sitting next to the Father, serving us in a way as the high priest. And we have Jesus who's, again, like I said, he is our high priest, and he's sitting in the heavenlies, and he has a beautiful job where he loves to be interceding for us. Like he has been interceding for me through over the last four and some years now at this point, and in every season. And just to have this, I wanted to read this last scripture in Hebrews for you all. It says, "So then, we must cling in faith to all we know to be true, for we have a magnificent King Priest, Jesus Christ, the Son of God, who rose into the heavenly realm for us, and he now sympathizes with us in our frailty. He understands humanity, for as a man, our magnificent King Priest was tempted in every way just as we are, and conquered sin. So now we come freely and boldly to where love is enthroned, to receive mercy's kiss and discover the grace we urgently need to strengthen us in our time of weakness." And that is the testimony of who he is, that he is somebody where we can come into the throne room as a mess, in tears, in disappointment, experiencing it all, and picture and behold the one who is standing in front of the Father, covering us, seeing us walk through our valleys, even through our mountaintop experiences, but he sympathizes us with our weakness. And he's a God who weeps with us and mourns with us, but he also celebrates with us as well. And so I hope that encourages you to, again, for those that have been in a place of deferred hope in this last season, can be reminded that we can anchor ourselves in the Word, that it is written, and that's how we get to respond in a season of questioning. Are you in my midst? So I bless you and I leave you with that, and I thank you for listening. Again, I'm Becca, and that is my story of God's faithfulness in this last season.